I am a huge Howard Stern fan, or was, no longer am, not because I don't think he's funny. I believe he's still as witty as he was. He has just gone too far woke for me, and I'll get into it. But Howard Stern's $500 million 5-year Sirius XM contract that was signed in 2020 is set to expire later this year, and rumors suggest that that Sirius XM is not looking to renew the king of all media. If you are unfamiliar, Howard Stern became huge in the late 80s, early 90s. He was one of the first syndicated radio hosts across the country. In fact, he was really the first video podcaster that was out there. Howard started broadcasting a video version of his show on what was called the Channel 9 show. This is back in the early 90s. And then he made a switch to E, where E would take segments of his radio show, they would film it, and then they'd release it days later. It was the first person to ever do this, and it's today's version of the video podcast is just the reincarnation and the adaptation of technology to what Stern was doing in the 90s. So if you're watching this now, understand that you may not like Howard Stern today because of his comments after COVID, his bashing of Donald Trump, his voicing of disdain for anti-vaxxers. But the guy that the reason that this even exists right now is in part due to Howard Stern.
Oh, 100%.
He was the greatest person to ever sit behind a microphone. That changed around 2010, 11, 12, after some of the co-hosts of the show dropped off. Jackie the Joke Man Martling left in 2001. Artie Lang tried to kill himself in 2009. Howard then decided to go with a skeleton crew of just him, Robin, and Fred. No comedic personality on the show. The show started to, in my opinion, it started to fall off. That's when I stopped listening. However, that being said, I was still a daily listener. I would still subscribe to Sirius. I would listen in the background as I was doing things. But you guys have to understand, my love for Howard Stern, I started in radio in 2003 because of him. I would listen to him on the bus on the way to school every day. I would get done and watch the E! Show at night. I started when Napster first came about. People were uploading versions of the Howard Stern Show. I would go and download them. Pirate Bay came along. Do you guys remember Pirate Bay? Yeah. I started downloading episodes of Stern. I loved Howard Stern so much, I would listen to the live broadcast in the morning, then download the show on Pirate Bay and re-listen to it in the afternoon. I went from a guy who was listening to 6 to 8 hours of Howard Stern on a daily basis to 0% after COVID. Because after COVID, Howard Stern lost his mind. He locked himself in his home. To this day, we're 5 years later, he still doesn't go out in public. If he does, it's with a select few, usually Jimmy Kimmel, for some reason, Jennifer Aniston, these elites that he used to make fun of. And that's when Howard fell off for me. And I know, Humberto, you were a fan. Howard went from being the guy on the red carpet that made fun of people on the red carpet to now being one of the guys that wants to be so much involved in the red carpet process that he'll boost the celebrity, the careers of these people that he used to openly mock just so he can be part of their club. And for me, that's when I was like, I'm not interested anymore.
Can I add something? And we also need to give credit to his fans. All right? Like them uploading the first show bits and clips and, segments were uploaded by the fans to the internet. Napster, Pirate Bay, and some of the greatest moments were fan created. And the thing is, the content that they were making right there and then was so good that people were they just want to get it out, they want to get it out everywhere.
How long were his shows?
4 hours, 4.5 hours. He used to go from 6 a.m. to around 10:30, 11 a.m. And even to this day, people still put clips up on YouTube. That's how I consume Howard now, is old clips from, pre-2009-ish on YouTube. And there's a whole archive of people that are uploading it. But this is what happens when you become out of touch. Howard Stern used to be super popular among people because he talked about a few things. His wife. When he was married to his first wife, Allison, he'd bitch and moan about her on the air. It was things that guys could relate to. I couldn't at 13, but my dad, who was driving in the car with me, could relate to. But then Howard got divorced, started dating a supermodel, started making hundreds of millions of dollars as opposed to a few $1 million. He lost touch with the everyday person, and that's what made him special. He was this witty, in my mind, Howard Stern's one of the greatest comedians of all time. I can't think of anybody that could go off the cuff like he could for 4.5 hours, and everything he said was funny. He went from being that guy to being so out of touch and so unrelatable that people like me who followed him and started doing what I do today because I wanted to follow in his footsteps, I don't even want to listen to the show anymore. And it's because of this wokeism that has spread, not just with Howard, but it has spread throughout late night, and it has spread throughout the fans of late night. We sit here and criticize the late night hosts for not having any Republicans on their shows. In fact, can you go to the next slide so I can show you? ABC's The View has had 102 liberal guests in 2025 without a single conservative on their platform. That's not the only one. Breitbart had a headline. Is there another one that I gave you, or is that it? Colbert's left-wing late show becomes therapy session for liberals. This came out from the New York Post, where they talked about the amount of liberals that Stephen Colbert had. He had, let's see, how many was it? Hold on.
Was it like 72 to 1?
I believe it. That's the 63 liberal guests
63
to no conservatives. And then, all right, so we sit here and we criticize these guys for doing these exact policy, or exactly what they're doing. Only talking to liberal voices. Pat made a challenge on the PBD podcast. Hey, invite a conservative on. Interview a celebrity that's on the conservative side. So Jimmy Fallon does. Jimmy Fallon has Greg Gutfeld, right now currently the king of late night. He is beating every other late night host in the ratings. Fallon has him on his program, and guess what happens? The viewers turn on Jimmy Fallon. So instead of embracing that, hey, you had this conservative on, it may not be what we want to hear, but okay, sure, we'll entertain the idea. No, people started saying, I've never liked Fallon at all. I like him even less now. Fallon has always been a yes man to everyone. The guy has almost zero convictions. Another person on Reddit wrote, I fucking loathe Fallon, and this is a prime example as to why. Some questioned Fallon giving a platform to a Fox News figure, calling Gutfeld part of the tinderbox that is MAGA. But do you guys blame these left-leaning hosts for not having people from the right on? Because look at how their fans react. They're creating content for a very segmented portion of the population, a very small audience. And now they're risking turning that audience off altogether by having these conservatives on. So if you are these guys, what do you do at this point? Do you invite conservatives on and risk losing your audience in hopes that you'll attract a more mainstream audience?
Didn't. Like, the numbers are in, and the show with Gutfeld, that he doesn't get enough credit. Like, Adam say, hey, he's not funny or whatever. Like, I think what Gutfeld is doing, he's consistent. I think he's very witty. I love his books. He's a very good writer. And he's killing it, all right? And on that show, it had a 57% increase in viewership, reaching 1.7 million viewers. They never had this rating in the last few months.
No, when you look at Fox News compared to all the other cable media news outlets, at one point there was a stat for the month of July where Fox News Digital beat every other mainstream media outlet combined on their digital end. And Fox News continues to have week after week after week of rating victories over every other news outlet. So maybe this is an attempt by these news outlets to try and make a subtle change, but even if they're doing it, their audience is rejecting it. So for me, it's like, do I blame these guys for broadcasting in an echo chamber? At a certain point, it's like, hey, do I want to keep the small audience that I have or have no audience at all to risk trying to get a bigger audience?
Well, yeah, no, I think you have to be like completely yourself, though. Like, just speak to people you're interested in. Like, that's what Rogan does. He doesn't give a shit about what the audience says. He isn't a prisoner to the audience. And I think that when you constantly analyze the numbers and look at it like that and say, like, oh, well, I upset them, you make yourself a prisoner to the audience. But if you just let it rip and talk to who you're interested in, I think that you end up with like a natural, reasonable pool of people.
Well, yeah, but what do they say about Rogan because of that? They call Rogan a right-wing podcaster.
They used to call him a left-wing podcaster.
Exactly. But, like, because Rogan is popular with the crowd that says, yeah, I want to hear from people of all ideologies and all persuasions.
Which is probably 80% of people.
Exactly. But this is the thing. We experience this as well. We all are in the process of helping identify possible guests for the PBD podcast and our other shows at Valuetainment. People like Joy Reid and Rachel Maddow and Anderson Cooper and Keith Olbermann, I think, all basically have standing invitations to come on PBD podcast whenever.
Anytime.
Every single one of them says no. And a lot of these big name celebrities were free, open, please come. They don't want to.
To their own financial detriment. Because you got to think, Joy Reid right now, I saw an article about how Joy Reid is actually making good money, maybe possibly better money on Substack than she was making on MSNBC. But for her to come on our program, sure, you're not going to win the entire audience over, but even if you can convert just 20% of our audience, you're talking about yesterday's episode has around 400,000 views. It'll probably have between 550 to 600,000 views. If you convert just 20% of that, you're talking about thousands of dollars in income, and they won't come and do it. Keith Olbermann, same thing. We've not only reached out to Keith Olbermann, we've reached out to the people who produce his podcast to see if he'd come on to promote his podcast. Nothing in return. I don't know if it's because they're scared. I don't know if it's just because they think we're that evil because we're in the middle.
All of the above. Because in their minds, they don't need us. And you see this from TV anchors to celebrities to politicians. Kamala Harris did not scramble to do any podcast appearances until the very end when they saw it was working for Trump. And then where did she go?
No, she didn't go anywhere.
No, she didn't go anywhere. She had Call Her Daddy with Alex Cooper come to her.
Well, and then she
had all those demands of Rogan of like, you come to me.
Yeah, and he said
it's
no.
It's a 1 hour interview. We get
And then she did
screening.
the Subway Series thing, and the guy said it was so awful, her responses, that he didn't want to put it out because he didn't want to be labeled the reason why Kamala Harris lost
Exactly.
the election.
Are you going to get into the business side of this, Rob?
Quickly, because we have 2 minutes.
Quickly, okay. Howard Stern again, Sirius XM. He was the biggest driver of that business model that I think is dying right now. You know, I might be wrong. It's dying right now. We saw the UFC switching, like they got a $7 billion
With Paramount.
with Paramount. They're gonna open that up. And then like the radio is cooked. It's absolutely cooked. They're not getting any sponsors.
I can speak to that. I just had a conversation with people from iHeartMedia 3 weeks ago where the woman on the phone was telling me we don't know what to do because the company is going bankrupt. So, and you're talking about the largest radio company in the United States. It's over. It's done.
And what happens with the Fallons of the world and all these guys? When you were forced to watch them, because there was 3 options on TV, you were forced to watch whatever they were presenting. The model kind of made sense, because there wasn't any more offerings. But now you can watch anything that you like from anywhere. You can watch a Japanese game show or Rob ranting on this beautiful show. There's no contest. Like, people are not gonna tune in, and they need to widen their offering if they want to have a chance.
But the problem is they are trying to widen their offering, and their audience is turning on, which is interesting.
They're not turning. Like this show, I told you, it did 57% better than any.
Oh, I thought you meant Greg Gutfeld's show went up.
No.
Fallon went up.
Gutfeld on Fallon
went up. Gotcha.
57% better than any other show for the last month.
And you even look at the way that the right has embraced. We talked about South Park, right? Charlie Kirk embracing the
humor, masturbating.
Yeah.
You can't even call it a parody.
That's what I was trying. That's what I'm looking for.
But it's not, because if you watch that episode where they had, I think it was Cartman. I don't really watch South Park.
A master debater.
Like he becomes a master debater who is like doing all the Charlie Kirk stuff. Cartman as Charlie Kirk is now Charlie Kirk's Twitter profile
and
picture.
Kristi Noem also liked the portrayal they did of her.
But that's the
we
thing,
can laugh at those things, but the left gets offended by it.
You can't even call it a parody, because all they had Cartman doing was repeating Charlie Kirk's exact points, basically word for word.
He's the wrong person to emulate Charlie Kirk, by the way.
They don't know how to make fun of right-wingers, because all they do is just state their positions.
I think they were very effective.
Yeah.
And the only joke, I don't know if you remember the fish sticks joke with Kanye.
Yeah.
The joke was the master debating. Like, I'm master debating, that was a joke. And then I think it was funny. I give them a break.
Yeah, but of course they also have, Trump humping Satan. And
dude, that's comedy.
JD Vance is like a weird little midget.
I'm
like,
very protective over comedy.
It's whatever. It's funny, but we can say that's funny. But at the same time, South Park never
made fun of
Biden, Obama, or Harris. They were all on the show, but they were all taken relatively seriously in their appearance on the show. So that, again, they don't know how to represent the opposite point, because all they think is, oh, those people are so objectively evil, we'll just use their own words and people will see why they're bad. But then all you accidentally do is make, through the mouthpiece of Cartman, a bunch of left-wing South Park fans get exposed to the fairly reasonable middle-of-the-road points that Charlie Kirk espouses when he debates college students.
Awesome.
But he's afraid to debate Fuentes.
Yeah, sure. We can talk about that on the APAC special that we'll do next week with Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz and everybody else.
So if you like this clip, click right here. And if you want to see more like it, click right here. Stay angry, Patriots.